You've now successfully completed the Escape from Alcatraz challenge, but tell us what it's actually all about and what does it entail?
Well, the Alcatraz challenge was, as they classify it, or the event is called the Escape from Alcatraz, and effectively it's one of the world's toughest triathlons. You swim from the prison 1.5 miles across San Francisco Bay, and then hopefully when you hit the beach it's about a 1/2 mile run to the transition point, where then you strip off, jump onto the bike, a tandem in my case, 18 miles of some wonderful hills through San Francisco, and then once we were finished that, it was a case of then don the trainers, and there was an 8-mile run again through some wonderful hills in San Francisco, and we had the opportunity to run underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, but we were off-road. It was mainly trails, narrow paths, steps, a lot of them. We hit a couple of beaches. We hit the famous Baker Beach, and then we hit a famous 400 sand step ladder, which to say it took it out of the legs after that little lot was an understatement. And then when we got to the top, there was a 1/2 mile then to the peak, and then a wonderful 1.5 miles sort of incline down to the finish. But it was one fantastic adventure.
So what was it like when you finished then? What was the atmosphere like?
Oh, incredible. Do you know what the first thing that hit me when we hit the finish line was jubilation, because we'd finished. But the first thing that hit me is when you're in Britain and you finish a race, you know, it's, oh, here comes a competitor from West Bromwich, here comes a competitor from London, here comes a competitor from the North East, and as you was crossing the line, it was like, well, here's Blind Dave and Tony Ellis from the UK, and here's somebody from Las Vegas, and somebody from San Francisco, somebody from LA, just scratching your head thinking, ooh. But no, we crossed the line elated. We got out of the sea even more so. That was our event, if you wanted to. We wanted to complete that swim, and we did. So the bike and the run was just something of a bonus, and it was just fantastic.
So how does it compare to the other challenges you've done?
Comparing it to other challenges, it's difficult because you know, running through the 7 marathons, that's always going to be the wow factor with people. You know, 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents, flying off into the sunset, hitting the floor, running a marathon, getting back on the plane. That's always going to be the wow one. The top to toe, 10 marathons, 10 days and 700 miles of cycling, that's one of the most horrendous. That took it body and mind, and I had a fantastic team around me, and I still do have. The cycle ride across Europe again was a fantastic adventure. The MDS, the desert, that was an adventure of a lifetime. And now Escape from Alcatraz, again an adventure. I can't say which was the toughest. I can't say either one was the toughest, because each of them holds their own memories. Each of them holds pain thresholds. Each of them holds, you know, a lot of laughter. Each in their own right is a fantastic achievement, and each in their own right supported you know, charities. So it's difficult to say which is the best, but I can talk about different parts of them and, you know, give you the pain, the pleasure and the tears, but that they all hold something special for me.
So Dave, a little birdie tells me that you actually got given a quicker time than your guide.
Well, it just so happens there's a medal here, which is an absolutely incredible medal, as you can see it is. And on the back, just so happens, there's a selection of times, because when we finished, they offered the service to engrave your medal. Now, I do believe the time says 4 hours, 13 minutes and 11 seconds. Now, on my guide's medal, Tony Ellis, bless his cotton socks, who ran, cycled and swam with me, and apparently edged just in front, he's 5 seconds slower. How that's worked, we do not know. But Tone, you're slower than the old codger, the blind old codger from West Brom.
So Dave, just tell us a bit about that swim then. So obviously...
Oof. Yeah, the swim was... all joking apart, the swim was absolutely incredible. It was the one part of the triathlon that both Town and myself we were worried about. As I said, in January we were struggling to throw 10 lengths together front crawl, and there was definitely no breaststroke going to go across that bay. It got to be front crawl, and we did scratch our heads and we did ask ourselves the question, are we going to do this? Because it's the swim, if anything, I guess, was going to lose us down. But we persevered. I mean, Town was in the baths by him in Much Wenlock, I was in baths in West Bromwich, and we persevered, and Dougie, bless his cotton socks, he was kicking my backside every Monday morning at 6:30, and then we entered into the open water over at Cliff Lakes, and we did a little bit in Swamp Pool in Samuel Valley. But when we got into the open water, we found that it a little easier because you hadn't got a side to career into, if you know what I mean. I could get into a rhythm, but then once I got my breathing right, once you get my kind of technique on front crawl, we soon got up to 500 metres. Then we did the course and we did 2 laps of 1,000. We got up to 2,000 metres. We started enjoying it, and we then started believing, you know what, this is now possible. But then when you get to San Francisco, and we hadn't had the opportunity to swim in the sea, which we should have done, but we didn't, and we bobbed up and down in the bay on the Friday before the event on the Sunday. We had a little bit of experience with some American lads there, and I'm glad we did that. We swam out there for about 20-25 minutes and sort of gauged a little bit of what the sea does, where we texture the salt water. And so I'm glad we did that. But on the Sunday morning, when we was told it was going to be like a mill pond, we were on the San Francisco Bell, the ferry that took us out to Alcatraz, moors up alongside, and then we leap off, or everybody leaps off, and Town kept on. Them waves are a bit rough, Dave. That sea's not calm. And I remember it, and I say it now, it was like it happened in the blink of an eyelid. 1 minute I'm inside, and then the next minute we're shuffling wetsuits on and everything ready, tied together, me and Town. And I says, where are we, Town? We okay? He says, I'm on the edge, jump. I hadn't even got time to think. But in the blink of an eyelid, sort of leaping and before hitting that water, what went through my head was like, 1.5 miles. How cold's it going to be? What's them waves going to be like? And more importantly, them flaming sharks. And I don't care what anybody said, plankton eaters or not, it's in the back of your mind. But as I hit the water, it was a case of everything left me, and all you did was, it was a case of, was it survival? I don't know. I mean, it weren't survival because there was safety boats around us, but I guess that's what goes through your mind. Right, you've hit the water, the waves was leaping over us, there was about 4 foot high, salt water, gulping, trying to get your breath, trying to get your rhythm, trying to get your technique right. Me and Town tied together, him telling me to swim because there's 2,000 competitors coming directly behind you, and you swim. And I would say within a minute, 2 minutes, and then I can only speak for myself here, but obviously guessing that we both made it, Town did the same, but you get into your rhythm, you get into your sort of stroke, your technique. I gauged that when the wave hit me right arm coming over and I went into a trough, I could get my breath, and you had to sort it all out in an instant. But we came through the waters, they were salty, that we were riding them up, we were riding them down. I felt like a cork in a big pool. And at one point, and I don't know what the time was because I lost all sense of time, to be totally honest with you, and I obviously lost all sense of direction. But at one point we hit, and the only way I can explain it was you were swimming in a lukewarm bath. It weren't lukewarm, but you were swimming in a lukewarm bath, and suddenly my hand plunged into freezing cold water. Then my body was immersed in freezing cold. And they say that through San Francisco Bay there's about 50 million gallons of water comes from the mountains, which is thawing and creates what they call a river. And I reckon that's obviously what we swam through. I don't know whether we was in it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but it was freezing, absolutely freezing, even with a wetsuit. And then as you went in it, you come out of it. And then, you know, it was then I started asking myself the question, how long have I been in this water? have I been in an hour yet? Have I been in 10 minutes? I'd lost all track. Then I got this great big thump on my shoulder, and I sort of come round, and I was treading water, and it was like, what? And Tone said, put your feet down, Dave. And I put my feet down onto the most amazing beach you could ever wish to come across. We'd done it. 58 minutes where we thought it was going to take us an hour and 20. 58 minutes it took us to swim across that bay. And that was my triathlon basically done. That swim was the worry, and we conquered it. The iconic Alcatraz, the myth, the strong currents, the strong waves, the freezing cold waters, them sharks, that could go away for me now. We'd just put our feet down on that beach, and I was an happy bunny.
So the bike wasn't exactly straightforward though, was it?
No.
Had a little bit of an accident along the way.
Yeah, well, the bike and the run was our comfort zone, if you want to. Not saying that we were going to do it, but I think when you were in the San Francisco Bay, we could not put our feet down on terra firma. It was a case of sink or swim. When we got to the beach, we were happy bunnies simply because we were back on dry land. We got onto the bike. Now, it was not Tony's forte. He's not a cyclist. He hates cycling, and he hates a tandem even worse. But we got together on this borrowed bike from a blind chap in America. So it was a strange bike to us both. And believe you me, there was 18 miles of some serious hills. But the one hill, there was lots of memories on there, and I think I done more laughing than I did anything else. But we're coming down this one hill around about 10-12 miles, and as we're shooting down this hill, Town shouting back, there's a left turn. Okay, so we're preparing ourselves for the turn, flick the pedals the other way, so we go sweeping round. All of a sudden they had a lot of shouting, a lot of whooping, Town going, ooh, I felt a bump. And then we went along, and then we went down another bump, and it was at this point I said, Tom, what happened there? He says, I overshot the left turn, Dave. I had to mount the footpath. I cleared the crowds. I went up, we went along, and I went down. He said, but we didn't come off. God. And I was killing myself for laughing. I thought, mate, the adventure of a lifetime being on the back of a tandem with Town. But then we got back safely, and as Town said, I got you back alive. So we racked the bike, and then we started running, and within the first mile, to be fair, we'd overtook a fair few. But another funny point there was an American lady who was, we were sort of in the midst of overtaking her, and she turned around and she sort of, now excuse my American voice, but she turned around and she said, hey, do they enter you in pairs these days? Have you entered as a pair? You're tied together. Well, me and Town put smiles on our faces. We both must have been thinking the same thing. You silly girl. And as we run past, she went, hey, blind, you're blind? And it was a case of, I can't even repeat what she said. I wouldn't take her home to meet Mother. You're effing blind? You're awesome. And oh, this woman was in raptures. Me and Tom was killing ourselves going along. But it's so funny to think what people actually think you're tied together. What do they think you're tied together for? But the run was then, it was full of spills. We done a few hills and we were puffing. We done a lot of running where we were chatting. Tom was doing a bit of the old GoProing at this point. We run along a few beaches, we went up the sand steps, but all the time we really enjoyed it. And then half a mile from the finish you heard the antennae or the PA system announcing it, and you're thinking, I'm close. A little spurt went on, and it was just fantastic when we crossed that line. And you would not believe how many West Bromwich Albion supporters was around. I had that many boings on the blue and white stripes. I tell you what, caused chaos that day, I think. It was brilliant.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot, Dave.
So in the end, how much are you actually raising in this challenge alone?
Myself personally, over the years, we're probably talking in excess of 3 million now. for the charities that I've done with the other challenges. For the foundation at the moment, cumulatively, I guess with everybody else's, pounds in the pot, I would like to think we've raised over £100,000 for the foundation. Last year the MDS raised 25k, I think, and this year we are hoping that we can touch at least 15. So but again, with a bike ride that seems to kick everything off each year and then gets everybody else's head spinning as to what we can do after that. So cumulatively over these 12 months, I'm thinking that the foundation will probably be touching 100k, which would be absolutely brilliant.
And where can people go to donate?
Well, the first port of call, I guess, is the Albion Foundation website, because they'll get all of the vessels for handing in money or their Just Giving. And then if they want to go onto my Just Giving site, which is www.justgiving.com/blind Dave Alcatraz. Or if they want to stop me in the street, and we've always got a pocket that will say this will end up in the foundation pot. So whatever, wherever, it's all about your penny, your pound, or your £1 million. We'll accept anything.
Cheers, Dave. Sounds like it's a really great challenge.
Thank you.